Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my June 2023 wrap up. So June was a pretty successful month for me. I did read a lot of things, and I did manage to complete my entire Battle of the Bookish TBR in the month, which was very, very exciting. I am so proud of myself that I did that. I have a feeling that this next month of July is going to be even better, but I am so proud of myself. I got through everything I needed to, with the exception of 2 books, one of which I'm nearly finished with and the other one I did not manage to get to, but is going to be one of my first things I do in the month of July after I finish the book that I'm currently in the middle of. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stats of June and talk to you about the books that I read. So in the month of June, I had a total of 3,869 pages read, which beats my all-time record of over 3,500 pages that I had done in March, I believe it was. So really strong month, nearly 4,000 pages read. I'm pretty proud of that. I also had 0 minutes worth of audiobooks. 6 of the books that I finished were physical, and I had 3 ebooks and no audiobooks, and 7 of the books that I had read in the month that I finished were from my personal library, and only 2 were borrowed. And then as far as star ratings, I had 5 5-star ratings, 4 4-star ratings, no 3 stars, no 2 stars, no 1 stars, but I did have 1 DNF in the month of June. So let's get into the books I read. So the first one was a collection of short stories by Octavia E. Butler, which was Bloodchild and Other Stories. This was a really solid collection. I gave it overall a 4 out of 5 stars. Some stories I definitely liked more than others, but I really, really liked the really odd and creepiness that there was of a lot of these more sci-fi based short stories that Octavia had written, and definitely is, I think, a great way to get into her, especially if you've never read her works before. I definitely recommend checking this one out first and foremost. The next book I read was City of Ashes, book 2 in the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. This was a reread for me, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars as well. It was much better than I remembered it, and I actually really, really liked the whole progression of Simon's storyline within this more than I thought I did the first time. I'm still not a fan of the whole Jason Clary situation, but I don't think very many people are by this point that are more mature adults that are rereading this, but I know that it's only going to get better from here. Next, I had an ebook, and that was the 4th issue of the 3rd volume of the Vox Machina Origins line by Matt Mercer and various other artists. This was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. I loved the fact that this one was involving Skasunder the dragon. This is a character that we learn about briefly in the actual campaign of Vox Machina, but they're not really looked at very much. Like, you know about them, you know that they fought dragons before the ultimate Chroma Conclave comes in Vox Machina, and so this was just such a cool battle scene to see. The next book I read was my only DNF this month, which was The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. I was so bored in this. I remember really liking The Wrath and the Dawn when I first read it, but I'm starting to come to the conclusion that Renee Ahdieh may not be an author for me, or at least her sequels are not as good, because I felt the same kind of way with the Flame and the Mist duology, and I don't remember that much of The Beautiful, but I'm willing to try that series again because that is her more newest series. It's her more recent series that I feel like I may like a little more because it does deal with vampires. But I was really bored throughout the very beginning of this. I just completely lost interest, and I will actually be giving it up, as well as The Wrath and the Dawn. I just don't think I'm going to read this series again, and would much rather have space on my shelves for something that I'm going to actually enjoy. The next book I read, though, was much more well-fared, and that was The Titan's Curse, the 3rd book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Rick Riordan. Many of you may know I am reading Percy Jackson for the very first time, and so far I really think this is my favorite of the series so far. I gave this one also a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really loved the incorporation of Zoe in this story. I think that she really made this story a lot, and I'm very excited to see how the rest of this series continues, especially with a lot of the things that happened at the very end, a lot of the things that were divulged. And now that I'm halfway through this series, I'm definitely finding a lot of the Annabeth and Percy fandom things happening that I'm like, I get this. I understand why people were shipping them so much in this entire series. The Titan's Curse was actually also for my Wheel of D20 reads, which was to read a book that had green on the cover. The next book I ended up reading was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This was the June read for the Octavia E. Butler read-along. This is the first book in a duology by Octavia, and this one is basically a sci-fi story where it starts off in 2024, and it's diary entries from a character who essentially creates like her own kind of religion of sorts within this dystopian world, and it is her journey of herself. It is a journey of discovery, and it is a journey of, I think, preservation in terms of the fact that she is having to really rely on herself more so than other people to do things that need to be done. And so this spans over the course of 3 years of her life, from when she's the age of, I believe, 16 or just about to turn 16 up to she's about 18 or 19. And I loved this from beginning to end. I gave this one a 4 to 5 stars. I really think this is so far my favorite story of Octavia's so far. Out of everything I've read so far, I feel like that the craftsmanship of this story was so well done. It was very smart to do it in a diary format, but I did get a little lost here and there with some of the storyline kind of ideas. But I'm very excited to see how Parable of the Talents goes, because I think that one's gonna be pretty hard-hitting. Then I had a reread this month, which was rereading The Final Strife. I also did go through and annotate and tab up my copy of it, because in June we decided to read The Battle Drum, which is the sequel to this, for Brandy's book club. So I did end up rereading The Final Strife, and honestly I think this was even better the second time, because I did not realize I had forgotten so much in terms of some of the twists and the things that had happened, especially toward the end of the story. But then there were also some things that I totally missed in terms of being like Easter eggs or like little breadcrumbs that kind of build to the foreshadowing of what was to become the end of this book. And I just absolutely adored it. 5 out of 5 stars. Was my favorite thing this entire month for sure. Definitely very excited to figure out the end of The Battle Drum, as that is what I'm currently working on right now. The next book I read was The Kingdom of Gods by N.K. Jemisin. This was the June read for the N.K. Jemisin read-along that I host, and I really liked this one too. This one also was a 5 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite in the Inheritance trilogy so far. This follows Sia, who is a character we have known about since the very first book in the Inheritance trilogy, and I feel like this story really exemplifies a lot of what Sia needed to happen over the course of this entire series, and I have an entire video talking about it, so go ahead and check that out if you would like. The next book I read was another 5 out of 5 stars, and that was The Dating Game by Sandy Barker. I was so shocked that I loved this as much as I did. It was fun, it was quick, and it was corny as hell, but it was so much fun to read. Honestly, if you're a huge fan of the Bachelor or Bachelorette series, I highly recommend this, because this book is basically that in a nutshell, just turned into something a little bit more British, Australian-esque, and it's just so much fun. It was so stupidly corny at times, but I just could not love it. Like, it was just absolute perfection. Loved it from the very first page. The first line got me immediately, so definitely recommend for a very cute rom-com. The Dating Game also was for the Wheel of D20 for a book that had pink on the cover. Now, another 5 out of 5 star, my last 5 out of 5 star for this month, that was again a complete surprise, was very much my biggest surprise of the entire year so far. Reading Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyong. How have I not read this series? I immediately, upon finishing this, needed to get my hands on at least the audiobooks for books 2 and 3, because I loved this from beginning to end. I don't know how I have gone so long without reading this. This has been on my self-destruct TBR for the year of 2023, and why did I not pick this up sooner? Seriously, I'm kicking myself for not reading this sooner, because it was so good. It was so fun, and it had so much life to it, and I love the way that this story goes, and I love the relationship that there is with this, which is a female-female relationship. It is so beautifully done. I cannot wait for books 2 and 3. I am so excited. This is the first book that has made me want to binge an entire series in a long time, so I think that says something to the effect of what Natasha is able to do for me. But without further ado, these are all the books that I read in the month of June. A very solid reading month. I am so thrilled that most of my reads were 4 and 5 stars. I did have the one DNF, like I said, with The Rose and the Dagger, but I'll take that. Like, I will take one DNF for all of the rest of the books being 4 and 5 stars. So very pleased with this. But thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!